Hey everyone, this is MidTube again, and I welcome you to this fast and concise tutorial on how to identify extrasystoles on an ECG. Now I'm not discussing the etiology, the pathophysiology, or the management of each condition, but merely focusing on how to identify each abnormality on an ECG. So here we go. ECG's abnormal rhythms, extrasystoles. Extrasystoles are also called pre-ectopic beats and also called premature contractions, and all of them are defined as any part of the heart depolarizing earlier than it should be. It means that part of the heart does not wait for the action potential coming from the SA node, but simply depolarizing spontaneously by itself. But this is just an occasional event. That's why extrasystoles are classified as occasional arrhythmias and not sustained arrhythmias. In other words, the heart will return to normal sinus rhythm after that premature contraction. They are classified into three main categories. The first is called atrial extrasystoles, or premature contractions, means originating from the atria. Nodal or junctional extrasystoles, originating from the AV node. And ventricular extrasystoles, originating from the ventricles. Atrial extrasystoles are characterized by the following on an ECG. Abnormal P wave, and it's abnormal because the P wave represents atrial depolarization. So if the atria are abnormal and they're giving abnormal beats, the P wave will be abnormal, of course. The QRS is normal because the ventricles are normal, and it's followed by a pause. So abnormal P wave followed by a pause. See here this rhythm, this ECG strip. The first thing you look at is the rhythm. Rhythm here is irregular. You see here abnormal P wave followed by a pause. Abnormal P wave followed by a pause. QRS is normal. This is called atrial premature contraction. We can classify atrial premature contractions into unifocal or multifocal. Unifocal means all the premature atrial contractions look identical because they originate from a single atrial ectopic focus. Multifocal means the premature atrial contractions look different because they originate from different foci. We could also classify them based on their beating patterns. So, with the first type is called atrial bigeminy. Every other beat is a premature atrial contraction. So, normal beat, we have here this normal ECG complex, normal beat, followed by abnormal beat, peaked P wave, followed by a pause. Normal beat, abnormal beat, normal beat, abnormal beat. The abnormal beat is the extrasystole, of course. This is called atrial bigeminy. Atrial trigeminy is every third beat is a premature atrial contraction. So normal beat, extrasystole. Normal beat, extrasystole. Every third beat is an extrasystole. Atrial couplets means two consecutive premature atrial contractions. So normal beat, two extrasystoles. Normal beat, two extrasystoles. Normal beat, two extrasystoles. This is atrial couplets. Atrial triplets means three consecutive premature atrial contractions. So normal beat, three extrasystoles. Normal beat, three extrasystoles. This is atrial triplets. I apologize for not putting an ECG example here because I couldn't find a good example on the internet. The second type is called nodal or junctional extrasystole, and it is exactly the same as atrial extrasystole. The only difference is that the P wave is absent. It could be immediately before or immediately after the QRS complex, but it's usually absent. QRS is normal and it's followed by a pause. We have this example here. Look at the rhythm. The rhythm is irregular here, just at one focus, right here. So this is an extrasystole, and the P wave is absent. QRS is normal, less than 3 small squares, followed by a pause. This is nodal or junctional extrasystole, originating from the AV node. The third and last category is called ventricular extrasystole, and it's characterized by absent P wave, a wide QRS complex because originating from the ventricles, so more than 3 small squares. It has an inverted T wave, and it's followed by a pause. We have this example here. We have a normal beats right here, but here we have this abnormal thing right here. This is ventricular extrasystole. You can see this wave here. This is a T wave of the preceding wave. This is not a P wave. So we have absent P wave, a wide QRS complex, inverted T wave, and a pause. It's followed by a pause. The interval between this QRS complex and the next one is longer than the normal RR interval. So it's followed by a pause. So absent P wave, wide QRS, inverted T wave, followed by a pause. We could also classify them based on morphology into unifocal premature ventricular contractions and multifocal, and exactly the same definition as the atrial one, but this is the different. This is the ventricle one from the ventricles. Multifocal, different morphologies. You can see this QRS this beat here looks different from this extrasystole, looks different from this extrasystole, so different morphologies of the ventricular extrasystoles. We could also classify them based on their repetitive pattern into the following. The first is called ventricular bigeminy, same definition. Every other beat is a premature ventricular contraction. So one normal beat, one ventricular extrasystole. One normal beat, one ventricular extrasystole. One normal beat, one ventricular extrasystole. Again, the ventricular extrasystole, no P wave, a wide QRS complex, inverted T wave, and it's followed by a pause. This wave here is the T wave of a preceding wave, of a preceding beat. Sorry. The second type is called ventricular trigeminy. Every third beat is a premature ventricular contraction. So normal wave, normal beat, ventricular extrasystole. Normal beat, ventricular extrasystole. Every third beat is a ventricular extrasystole. A ventricular quadrigeminy means every fourth beat is a premature ventricular contraction. So normal beat, ventricular extrasystole. Normal beat, ventricular extrasystole. You can also see here that this ECG strip is multifocal. See, this ventricular extrasystole looks different in morphology from this one. So this one we can call it as multifocal ventricular quadrigeminy. The fourth type, based on the repetitive pattern, is called ventricular couplets. And we've got two consecutive premature ventricular contractions. So this normal beat here, followed by two ventricular extrasystoles, and then a pause. Normal beat, two ventricular extrasystoles, pause. This is ventricular couplets. The fifth and the last type is called ventricular triplets, where we have three consecutive premature ventricular contractions. So one normal beat, three ventricular extrasystoles. One normal beat, three ventricular extrasystoles. And if we have more than three consecutive premature ventricular contractions, then we will be calling it as ventricular tachycardia. I've just got a few points to point at regarding ventricular extrasystoles, and it's that ventricular extrasystoles are clinically significant when we have an R on T phenomenon. So when we have the R wave of the ventricular extrasystole occurring at the T wave of the preceding wave. So we have here this T wave, the beginning of the T wave of this normal wave, T wave, and then R wave of the ventricular extrasystole. This is significant because this could progress into ventricular fibrillation, which is life-threatening. So when we have an R on T phenomenon, this is clinically significant, and you should look for this. If you have more than three consecutive premature ventricular contractions, then it's called ventricular tachycardia, and it's also life-threatening. So if you have too many premature ventricular contractions, you should be aware. Premature ventricular contractions occurring in the setting of an MI is also clinically significant. So be sure to look for these 3 points. That's all for extrasystoles or premature contractions. I hope you could benefit from this, and for our next video on bradycardias.